Hello, everyone, and thank you for letting me be here and speak. I I think we're all here because we are all feeling revolutionary. That we all know that something needs to change, and I think the reason we've all of us come together on a Saturday afternoon is because we all feel the need to be part of something different. I've spent a long time thinking about this musing, and it's been mulling over in my mind for quite a long time. But it was only on Thursday when a parcel arrived from America that I was able to sort of unlock the key to my fevered musing. And that parcel contained a book, and I hope that you will forgive me for now reverting to something that I feel very comfortable doing as a librarian, which is to read to you from this book. I've hang on, is my slide gonna move? I've slightly edited it, but this book by David Bedricki called Artificial Intelligence, he kindly has allowed me to quote from it. But I hope that this, by way of having listened to these brilliant people speaking, is a way to use story to just develop and I think reflect a lot of what we've heard today. So we're going to start. Ever since he was a little chip, Robot knew he was different. Upon being assembled, Robot was sent to a warehouse. In his warehouse, I should tell you, he spends most of his time daydreaming and getting into trouble with his boss, who keeps threatening him to go and be recycled. One day, something stopped him in his tracks. Unfortunately, everyone behind him stopped too. Robot had run out of chances, so off he went. He took a wrong turn and ended up outside. While he was outside, he saw lots of other things as well. He saw people walking around, and he encountered animals and pets and human beings busy in their lives. He was amazed by the lights, the music and dancing, but it was the museum that thrilled him the most. It had the stuff his dreams were made of, big, colourful and grand. He then goes on his way, he goes into the museum, he spends all night there, and on his way home he walks past a girl who's learning to paint, and he's so amazed by this that she gives him her paintbrush, and he takes it back to try and do it himself. But in his haste to get back to the factory, to the warehouse, he drops his paintbrush, so has to go back and explain to his friends about his adventure. Describing music and dancing was simple. Describing art wasn't. The only thing to do was take everyone to the museum. They were all ready to go until they had to step outside. Sadly, no one wanted to leave. That night, while everyone else recharged, Robot set to work. He soon found out that making art was not easy. He thought he had failed, but when he stepped back, he saw that what he made was beautiful. So Robot daubed, glazed, stippled, and splattered, something big, colourful, and grand. In the morning, his friends applauded his work, but as Robot took a bow, he heard, "Forget reprogramming." But then Robot's boss noticed something. The warehouse had never looked so good or worked so well. From then on, Robot did his own work, both inside and outside. So I hope that you like I will have picked up on the great similarities between what we've just seen in Hugh's work with the heroic inquiry, but also in FOSIL and what we're trying to do as inquirers for everyone, for the children in our schools. I think the work of FOSIL and the promise of inquiry to challenge the status quo, to question and challenge this world of AI generated lesson plans, PowerPoints, uniformity, conformity, where we've forgotten the purpose of education and are teaching for teaching's sake, regurgitating without thinking, gets us stuck in what a friend of mine called the other day an educational death loop. And this idea of a cycle, which is a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. Again, we're coming, as I've been thinking about this talk, I keep coming back to this cycle that keeps going on. But here, this educational death loop where we're teaching people things that mean they can't leave. They're not thinking beyond and challenging boundaries. They're stuck within the system that they're already in. So here is a challenge which faces those of us who are desperate to reimagine this system, where children are engaged readers, eager and able to feed their curiosity, armed with the skills to be a deep and critical reader, in well-resourced schools where every child has access to a library and a librarian. I mean, as an aside, my work as co-chair of the Great School Libraries campaign shows very clearly that there's an awful lot of schools in the UK where children don't have access to a library and a librarian, and surely the whole point of being at school and being able to find things out for themselves means that they should exactly have that at the very basic level to be able to do those things. But as we continue to avoid the necessity for change and tie ourselves in tighter and tighter knots, we just cannot imagine how to undo this, because we are a product of this system. So here they are, these robots, happy to conform and function in their warehouse, but unable to leave it, to see what possibilities lie outside. I'm sure you've all seen and know this quote from Michael Rosen about data. At first they said they needed data about the children to find out what they're learning. Then they said they needed data about the children to make sure they're learning. Then the children only learnt what could be turned into data. Then the children became data. Again, to continue, this death loop is about creating more and more people unable to think, scared to step outside, products of an increasingly data-driven, algorithm-created, artificially generated curriculum, and we continue to stupid ourselves out of existence. Not long ago, I was talking to Daryl about having gone to an EdTech conference in Dubai, which was simply one of the most depressing days of my life, I think. A whole lot of middle-aged men in slightly shiny suits walking around peddling their latest snake oil that were basically ways for them to speed up work, to avoid deep thought, to allow people to continue to do the shallow work of teaching children a curriculum, but to do it quicker, easier, to perpetuate mediocrity and to continue to reinforce the feedback loop of mindless production. It is no coincidence that in my confusion and doubt about what to say in this musing and how to say it, it was a story that gave shape to my thoughts, which allowed me to hang my garbled and amorphous ideas onto something which allowed me to start to gain some clarity, I hope, in what I want to say. Where is the story of why we are teaching what we are teaching? I think we've just seen from Hugh and Daryl that the importance of narrative and story in the learning journey, and how important it is that it is story that tells children, that helps us all see where we're going. How can children make sense of a curriculum which doesn't hold that within it, that doesn't have the promise inquiry at its heart, which allows children to discover the world and their place in it, secure in the knowledge that the world belongs to them because they understand it? I think, and you know, generative AI, which we've all known can see, hallucinates and tells itself lies, but it continues to believe, which it is stuck in its own self-perpetuating, for want of a better word, death loop, that a never-ending feedback loop that we can't get out of. So I apologize for using images, but I think I think it, well, I don't apologise actually. I'm sure you all know this book by Sean Tan, Cicada, where hardworking insect works for 17 years in a grey office with other humans who do not value him, don't respect him, and treat him very badly. And after 7 years, they send him off without a thank you into retirement. He leaps off the top of the grey building into the grey city. And, oh, sorry. The cicada all fly back to forest, sometimes think about human, can't stop laughing. I think the this analogy for trying to break out of this and finding actually that here he is in his forest that he goes back to. This is the promise of inquiry and what Daryl and everybody else have been working towards. I noticed very this morning as I was putting this together, I realized how similar some of these images even are. This image, what he saw, that what he made was beautiful. The need for creativity and imagination and all of those things that we've been talking about on the hero's journey, about what you feel, about education not just being learning a whole load of facts, but that it's a process of, it's an affective process as much as it is an academic one. So I need to keep quite close eye on the time because I think I'm coming to the end. I just very quickly, the journey that we've been on at our school, which is, I mean, we're nowhere near anywhere yet, but it's coming. We are a high performance learning school, and one of the pillars of high performance learning is inquiry, which has been fantastic because it has allowed us to really have deep conversations about FOSIL and how we're going to bring it into our school. And one of the things that we did in the summer of last year was an enrichment where we were creating the first objects to go into our the museum of our school, which is only 10 years old. So there's a lot of work to do on that, but I hope that this idea is what will underpin how we start thinking and developing our curriculum to be able to give us something to hang it on. And I had taken this slide out, and then I listened to Mark LePage talking earlier, and I put it back in because I think it's really interesting. Anthony Selden wrote an article about AI and in education in 2024, in October last year, and he talks about these 7 facets of humanity. And I think it's perhaps it's just interesting thinking about them in the light of today and this symposium. He says, first, curiosity, asking searching questions, including about abstract morality and meaning, the near universal desire to learn, and the passion and pride in mastery of new knowledge, skills, and achievements. Agency, that we are capable of free will, acting in a unique and wholly independent manner, and know the joy and creativity. Consciousness, self-awareness, and knowing that one is being self-aware. Awe and wonder, the capacity to be moved and transported by the beauty of a sunset or concert, to marvel at human skill as at a sports match or at difficult human exploits. Love and empathy, the total loving self-negation in the interests of others, empathetically connecting with people and animals at deep levels, and an intuitional sixth sense about what others are thinking and feeling. Apprehension of the divine, an innate sense of morality and the desire to be well thought of by others. And finally, centrality of family and belonging as the bedrocks of identity and happiness, and the joys and need for friendship and being part of something bigger than oneself. I think this is my last slide, that thinking about all of those and what we've heard from everybody who's talked today, about what it is that we're doing, and this quote from T.S. Eliot about not ceasing from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. I think it's so apt, having looked at those incredible images that Hugh has made. And so I'm not quite sure how to finish it, but just to say to Daryl and Jenny and Barbara and Elizabeth and everybody who's been so integral in creating FOSIL, thank you. Thank you for allowing us all to come together to think about this, for what you are doing for inquiry. And thank you for asking me to speak. The revolution will not be televised. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary Rose. What a lovely way to finish for lunch. We do appreciate you, and I can't wait to catch up with you soon. We are going to go off now for lunch. We will be back. I will leave the screen on, so you can stay and chat with each other if you want to. We will be back at 12:45 to continue our journey with inquiry. Thanks very much.